People say walking away is easy. They say it like it's a clean thing, like you wake up one morning, make a brave decision, and leave with your head high. They are wrong. Walking away is not loud. It doesn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It doesn't happen with footsteps. Walking away happens inside your chest, when something breaks so quietly that no one around you notices, but you feel it echo through your whole body. On the day she walked away from everyone, no one clapped, no one stopped her, no one asked why. They only asked one question, over and over in different voices. Why would a mother destroy her own life like this? What they didn't know was that her life was already destroyed, and her daughter was the only thing left worth saving. It started like most tragedies do, on an ordinary day, in an ordinary house, with people who believed nothing bad could happen to them. Her name was Elena. She wasn't dramatic, she wasn't loud, she wasn't someone who liked attention or conflict. Elena believed in fixing things quietly, in keeping families together, in choosing peace even when it hurt. For years, she told herself that love meant endurance, that marriage meant compromise, that being a good mother meant holding everything together no matter the cost. And for a long time, she did. From the outside, her life looked safe, comfortable, almost perfect. A small home filled with routine, a husband who smiled in public, family dinners on weekends, photos on the wall that showed happiness frozen in time. And at the center of it all was her daughter, Lily. Lily was 12 years old, soft-spoken, gentle, too gentle for a child who used to laugh loudly. Elena noticed the change slowly, the way Lily stopped running to the door when she came home, the way she kept her shoulders tight like she was always bracing herself, the way her laughter faded into polite smiles. At first, Elena told herself it was just growing up, school pressure, mood swings. That's what everyone said. Kids change, they told her. She's fine, they said. You worry too much, they laughed. And Elena tried to believe them, because believing them was easier than facing the quiet fear that followed her every night. There are moments when a mother's instinct whispers instead of screams. Moments when nothing is wrong enough to point at, but everything feels wrong inside. Elena felt it when Lily stopped sleeping through the night, when she started locking her bedroom door, when she flinched at sudden movements. One night, Elena found Lily sitting on the bathroom floor, fully dressed, lights off. She wasn't crying. That scared Elena more than tears ever could. Elena sat down beside her, back against the cold wall. She didn't rush. She didn't ask questions. She waited. Minutes passed in silence, so heavy it felt like pressure on her ears. Finally, Lily spoke, barely above a whisper. "Mom, if I tell you something, will you still love me?" That question didn't just break Elena's heart, it split it open. She didn't hesitate. "I will always love you," she said, "no matter what." Lily nodded slowly, like she was testing the words, like she was afraid they might disappear if she trusted them. But she didn't speak again that night. She just leaned against her mother, trembling slightly, as if her body remembered something her mouth wasn't ready to say. Elena held her until the floor went cold. That was the first night Elena didn't sleep. Over the next weeks, Elena tried everything. She talked to her husband. "She's just sensitive," he said. "You're imagining things." She talked to her parents. "Don't fill the child's head with ideas," they warned. "You'll make things worse." She talked to teachers. "She's quiet but polite," they said. "No real concerns." Every door Elena knocked on closed gently but firmly in her face. No one wanted to hear the word wrong, because wrong meant responsibility. It meant consequences. It meant discomfort. And discomfort scared them more than a child's silence. Elena started questioning herself. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe this was normal. Maybe she was the problem. But every time she looked into Lily's eyes, that doubt disappeared. Fear doesn't lie. The night everything changed came without warning. It was raining, one of those quiet rains that feels heavier than storms. Elena came home earlier than usual. The house was dark, too quiet. She called out, but no one answered. As she walked down the hallway, she heard a door close quickly. Lily's door. She knocked once, then twice. No answer. She opened the door. Lily was standing by the window, back turned, shoulders shaking. Her hands were clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. Elena didn't ask questions. She didn't raise her voice. She just said, "Lily, it's me." Lily turned around, and Elena saw it. Pure fear. Not the kind children show during nightmares, but the kind that lives deep, quiet, and long. Lily crossed the room in 2 steps and pressed herself into her mother's arms. "Please," she whispered, "please don't make me stay here." Those words ended Elena's old life, because here was their home, and if her daughter was afraid of home, then nothing else mattered anymore. That night, the truth came out in pieces. Not clear, not complete, but enough. Enough to understand that someone trusted, someone protected by family silence, had crossed lines that should never be crossed. Enough to understand that Lily had been carrying fear alone because she was afraid no one would believe her. Elena listened without interrupting. Her hands shook, but her voice stayed calm. Inside her, something changed. Fear hardened into resolve. Shock turned into clarity. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She made a decision, and she thought everyone else would make the same one. She was wrong. When Elena told her husband, he didn't ask about Lily's pain. He asked one question: "Do you know what this will do to us?" Us. Not her, not our daughter. Us. He talked about reputation, about family, about keeping things quiet. "If you tell anyone," he said, "you'll destroy everything." That sentence cut deeper than anger ever could, because in that moment, Elena realized she was standing alone. When she went to her parents, they avoided her eyes. "These things tear families apart," they said. "Think carefully." Think carefully? As if protecting a child required calculation? As if silence was safer than truth? Elena went home that night and sat in her car for a long time. Her phone filled with messages. "You're overreacting. Don't ruin everyone's life. Think about the consequences." No one asked the only question that mattered. Is Lily safe? That was the moment Elena understood something painful and clear. If she stayed, Lily would learn that silence mattered more than safety. If she stayed, Lily would learn that truth was negotiable, and Elena refused to teach her daughter that lesson. So she chose silence, not the silence that hides truth, but the silence that walks away from lies. She packed one bag. She took Lily's hand. She didn't explain. She didn't argue. She walked away from her marriage, from her family, from everyone who chose comfort over courage. And behind her, people called her selfish, dramatic, unstable. They said she destroyed her own life. But every night after that, Lily slept without fear. And Elena learned the hardest truth of all. Sometimes being a good mother means becoming the villain in someone else's story. And this
was only the beginning.
When Elena walked away, she thought the hardest part was over. She was wrong. Leaving was only the first wound. Living with the consequences was the deeper cut. They didn't chase her. They didn't ask her to come back. Instead, they erased her. Family group chats went silent. Friends stopped answering calls. People she had known for years crossed the street to avoid her. It was as if walking away had turned her into something dangerous, something contagious. And maybe, to them, she was, because her silence wasn't empty. It was full of truth. The first place Elena and Lily stayed was a small rented room on the edge of the city. One bed, a thin mattress on the floor. The walls were bare, but the air felt lighter. That first night, Lily slept for 8 hours straight. No nightmares, no sudden waking, no locked door. Elena sat beside her, watching her breathe, and felt a pain she couldn't name. Relief, because relief meant admitting how unsafe Lily had been before. Money became a problem quickly. Elena had left without planning, without permission, without support. Her husband froze the joint account. Her parents said they couldn't help until things calmed down. Things, as if her daughter's fear was a phase that would pass. Elena found work cleaning offices at night. The hours were long, the pay was small, but Lily stayed close, and that was enough. Some nights Elena cried quietly in the bathroom so Lily wouldn't hear. Other nights she didn't cry at all. She just stared at the wall, listening to the sound of survival. The rumors spread faster than the truth ever could. She took the child and ran. She's unstable. She's trying to ruin a good man. Elena heard them through people who still whispered her name. They said she was dramatic, that she wanted attention, that she imagined things. And sometimes, late at night, when exhaustion pressed down on her chest, she almost believed them. Almost. Until she looked at Lily. Until she saw her daughter slowly begin to breathe again. Lily changed in small ways. She started humming while doing homework. She laughed softly at cartoons she used to love. She stopped flinching when Elena touched her shoulder. Healing doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly, but it leaves signs. One evening, as they shared noodles from the same bowl, Lily looked up and said, "Mom, thank you for believing me." Elena froze because she realized how rare belief had been. She reached across the table and held Lily's hand. "I will always believe you," she said. And for the first time since they left, Elena felt something rise inside her that wasn't fear. It was strength. Weeks passed, then months, and the silence from Elena's old life grew louder. No apologies, no questions, no concern, just distance. And with that distance came clarity. Elena started writing things down, dates, times, conversations she remembered, not out of anger, out of responsibility, because she had learned something dangerous. When truth is ignored long enough, it doesn't disappear, it waits. One afternoon, Elena received a message from someone she didn't expect, a woman named Rachel. She had been part of their extended family circle, not close, not distant, neutral. Her message was short. "I don't know if you'll talk to me, but I believe you." Elena stared at the screen for a long time. That one sentence felt heavier than all the messages that had judged her. They met at a small cafe. Rachel's hands shook as she held her cup. "I saw things," she said, "things that didn't feel right. I stayed quiet." Elena didn't interrupt. "I regret that," Rachel continued. "I was afraid." Elena nodded. Fear made cowards of good people every day. Rachel told her that she wasn't the only one who had noticed signs, that whispers had existed long before Elena walked away, but no one wanted to be the first to speak. Elena felt anger rise, slow and controlled, not rage, purpose. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She realized something important. Her silence had protected Lily, but it had also protected others who might be in danger. And suddenly, the story wasn't just about her daughter anymore. It was about every child people chose not to hear. Elena didn't rush. She didn't confront. She didn't accuse. She listened. She documented. She spoke to professionals quietly. She learned what steps could be taken without causing more harm. This wasn't revenge fueled by anger. This was justice built on patience. Her husband finally reached out months later. His message was short and cold. "You've made your point. Come home." Come home? As if nothing had happened, as if Lily's fear had been a misunderstanding. Elena didn't reply, because she understood now home isn't a place, it's a feeling. And Lily finally felt safe. The real betrayal didn't hurt the most. What hurt most was the realization that many people had suspected something and chosen silence anyway. They had traded a child's safety for their own comfort. And Elena made a promise to herself. She would never be quiet again, not for revenge, not for attention, but so that no one could say, "We didn't know." The pressure began to build. People started asking questions, not publicly, not loudly, but questions all the same. Why had Elena really left? Why had she been so certain? Why had Lily changed so much? Truth doesn't need shouting. It spreads through cracks. One night, Elena asked a question that stopped Elena's heart. "Mom, are we bad people for leaving?" Elena knelt in front of her. "No," she said firmly. "We are brave." Lily thought about that. Then she smiled, a real smile. And Elena knew then, whatever came next, she had already won the most important battle. But the story wasn't over, because silence, once broken, doesn't go back quietly. And somewhere, the people who had doubted her were about to face a truth they could no longer ignore. The choice Elena made had destroyed her old world. Now, it was about to expose theirs. Truth has a strange way of waking up. It doesn't rush. It doesn't scream. It waits. And when it finally rises, it does so not with noise, but with weight. Elena felt that weight the morning she realized something important. She was no longer running. She was standing still while the lies behind her began to shake. Life settled into a fragile routine. Mornings were quiet. Lily went to school nearby, a smaller place, less polished, but kinder. Teachers listened here. They asked questions. They noticed things. Elena worked during the day now, filing papers at a local office. It wasn't much, but it gave her evenings back. Evenings were for healing. Homework at the small table, shared meals, long talks before sleep. And slowly, Lily began to talk more. Not about the past, not yet, but about her thoughts, her fears, her dreams. And Elena learned something painful and beautiful at the same time. Children don't need perfect parents. They need present ones. One afternoon, Elena received another message. This time it wasn't quiet. It was desperate. "I need to talk to you," the message read. "Please, it's about Lily and others." It was from Mark. Mark had been a friend of the family, trusted, respected. One of the people who had once told Elena she was overreacting. They met in a public park. Mark couldn't meet her eyes. "I was wrong," he said. "I didn't want to see it." Elena didn't say anything, because silence, when used right, makes people confess more than words ever could. "I heard things after you left," Mark continued, "things I should have paid attention to before." He spoke about strange behavior, about moments that didn't make sense at the time, about other children who had suddenly grown distant. "I didn't know what to do," he said. so I did nothing. Elena finally spoke. That choice, she said quietly, is why we're here now. Mark nodded, and then he said the words Elena had been waiting for without knowing it. I'm willing to speak, if you are. That night, Elena opened her notebook again, pages filled with dates, memories, conversations, but now she added names, not accusations, witnesses. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about building a bridge between truth and justice. Elena reached out to a counselor, not for Lily, but for guidance. She asked careful questions. She followed legal paths. She learned what could and couldn't be done. And she learned something else. Silence protects the powerful. Process protects the vulnerable. So she trusted the process. Lily noticed the change. You're different, she said one evening. Elena smiled. I'm stronger, she replied. Lily thought for a moment. Me too, she said. And Elena had to look away because strength should never come from pain. The first official step was small, a conversation, then another, not loud, not public, but recorded, words placed where they could no longer disappear. The truth began to take shape, slowly, carefully, like a picture coming into focus. Meanwhile, Elena's old life began to feel the shift. Her husband called again. This time his voice wasn't confident. People are asking questions, he said. What are you doing? Elena kept her voice calm. I'm protecting my child, she said. You're making things difficult, he snapped. No, she replied. I'm making them honest. He hung up. And for the first time, Elena felt no fear, only certainty. The rumors changed tone. They were no longer sharp, they were nervous. People whispered differently now. Not she's unstable, but what if she was right? Truth doesn't arrive all at once. It drips, and each drop leaves a stain that can't be ignored. One evening, Lily asked a question that stopped Elena mid-step. Mom, will they get in trouble? Elena knelt beside her. Truth has consequences, she said gently, but those consequences aren't your fault. Lily looked relieved. I don't want anyone else to feel like I did, she whispered. And Elena understood. This wasn't just her fight anymore. Rachel and Mark weren't the only ones. Others began reaching out. Quiet messages, anonymous calls, stories that echoed each other in ways too precise to ignore. Different details, same fear. And Elena felt something shift again. What began as one mother protecting one child was becoming something larger, something unstoppable. The process was slow, painfully slow. There were days Elena wanted to scream, days she wanted to give up. But every time she looked at Lily, she remembered why she started. The confrontation didn't come like a storm. It came like a cold front, sudden, inevitable. Elena was asked to give a statement, not as an accusation, as a witness. She sat in a small room with neutral walls. Her voice didn't shake. She told the truth, all of it. When she finished, the room was silent, not disbelief, recognition. When she walked out, the world felt different, not safer, not easier, but real. And reality, even when painful, is better than lies wrapped in comfort. Her husband sent one last message. You've gone too far. Elena deleted it without replying, because she finally understood something clearly. You don't go too far when you stop protecting people who chose silence. That night, Lily slept peacefully, and Elena sat beside her bed, thinking about how far they'd come. She thought about the people who stayed silent,
the ones who spoke too late, the ones who were speaking now, and she realized something powerful. Truth doesn't need everyone. It only needs enough. The first crack in the old world had appeared, not dramatic, not public, but permanent. And soon, the people who once asked, "Why would a mother destroy her own life like this?" would be asking a different question. How did we not see it?
Silence can only hold for so long. At first, it feels strong, protective, safe. But when truth presses against it from every side, silence doesn't stay quiet. It starts to crack, and when it cracks, it screams. Elena felt that shift before she saw it. It was in the way conversation stopped when her name was mentioned, in the way people avoided eye contact, in the sudden politeness of those who once dismissed her. The world that had turned its back on her was now standing very still, listening. The first sign came from Lily's old school, a short email, carefully written, neutral words. "We would like to discuss some concerns," it said. Concerns, the same word they had once used to dismiss her. Elena smiled bitterly. Now they wanted to talk. Behind closed doors, panic had begun. Questions were being asked, not by outsiders, but from within, from people who had trusted the wrong silence, from institutions that suddenly realized they had ignored warning signs. And nothing scares people more than the thought, what if we should have known? Elena's husband felt it too. His confidence was gone. When he called this time, his voice sounded thin. "You need to stop," he said. "You're hurting people." Elena replied calmly. "I didn't start this," she said. "I just stopped hiding it." There was a pause, then anger. "You're tearing everything apart." "No," she said softly. "I walked away. Everything else is falling on its own." He hung up again, and Elena felt something unexpected. Peace. Lily noticed the tension, even though Elena tried to shield her. "Are they mad at you?" Lily asked one night. Elena chose honesty, gently. "They're uncomfortable," she said, "because truth makes people uncomfortable." Lily thought about that. "Then that's not my fault," she said slowly. "No," Elena replied, holding her close. "It never was." Meetings started happening without Elena present, people talking behind doors that once shut her out, decisions being reconsidered, stories being re-examined, and the truth, once whispered, was now being compared. Patterns emerged. Moments once ignored now stood out clearly. The silence that had protected someone for years was turning against itself. Rachel called Elena late one evening. "They're scared," she said quietly. "I can feel it." "Good," Elena replied. "Fear makes people honest." Rachel hesitated. "Some of them are trying to fix things quietly," she added. "Make it disappear." Elena closed her eyes. That was expected. People who fear exposure often mistake silence for solution. "They're too late," Elena said. "Truth doesn't disappear anymore." The first public crack came unexpectedly, not through Elena, not through Lily, through someone else, another mother. She spoke carefully, no names, no accusations, just her story. And the moment she spoke, everything changed, because now Elena wasn't alone. The tone of conversations shifted overnight. This was no longer a misunderstanding, no longer one dramatic woman. This was a pattern, and patterns terrify people who depend on denial. Elena was called in again. Another room, different faces. This time, they listened differently. They asked questions with weight behind them. They took notes without interruption. Elena spoke steadily. She wasn't emotional. She wasn't angry. She was clear. And clarity is dangerous to lies. Outside that room, her old world was unraveling. Not loudly, not in chaos, but quietly. the way trust dissolves when people realize they protected the wrong thing. Her parents called for the first time in months. Their voices were careful. "We didn't know," they said. Elena closed her eyes. "You didn't want to know," she replied. Silence followed, then tears. But Elena didn't feel relief, only distance. Because apologies that arrive after pressure are not courage, they are survival. Lily asked fewer questions now. She seemed to sense that something was changing. "Mom," she said one evening, "are we safe now?" Elena knelt in front of her. "We're safer," she said honestly, "and we're getting stronger every day." Lily nodded. That was enough. The person at the center of it all, the one protected by silence for so long, had gone quiet. No appearances, no statements. That silence wasn't strength, it was fear. Because fear knows when its time is running out. Elena felt the weight of what was coming. Not revenge, consequences. And she prepared herself for the hardest part, being believed after being doubted for so long. Because belief doesn't erase pain, it only changes who carries it. One afternoon, Elena walked past a familiar street, the one she used to call home. She didn't stop. She didn't look back. She realized something then. She hadn't destroyed her world. She had escaped it. And now that world was facing the truth it had tried so hard to bury. The silence was no longer quiet. It was screaming through whispers, through meetings, through nervous glances, and everyone felt it. Something was coming. Not loud, not dramatic, but final. That night, Elena sat beside Lily's bed, watching her sleep. She thought about the woman she used to be, afraid, quiet, willing to endure, and she felt gratitude, not for the pain, never for the pain, but for the strength that followed. Because once silence breaks, it never goes back the same way. And as the truth pushed closer to the surface, one thing became clear. The people who had stayed silent were about to face the hardest question of all. What do you do when the truth remembers you? Truth rarely arrives with noise, but when it finally speaks out loud, no one can pretend they didn't hear it. The turning point didn't happen on a stage. It didn't come with cameras or shouting. It came through a letter, a formal notice, carefully worded, delivered quietly. Elena read it twice, then a third time. They were moving forward, not because of one voice, not because of one child, but because too many stories now matched to be ignored. Elena sat down slowly, her hands shaking, not with fear, but with the weight of what this meant. The silence was officially over. News travels faster than truth, but truth lasts longer. Within days, people began to talk openly, not in whispers, not in corners, out loud. Names weren't shouted yet, but they were understood. The same people who once avoided Elena's eyes now watched her carefully, not with judgment, with caution. Because when truth surfaces, everyone wonders where they stand in its shadow. Her husband called again. This time, his voice cracked. "You never said it would go this far." Elena answered without anger. "I didn't know silence would last this long," she replied. He paused, then quietly asked the question he had avoided for months. "Is Lily okay?" Elena closed her eyes. "She's healing," she said. "That's what matters." The line went dead, and Elena knew something had shifted permanently. Lily sensed it too. Kids feel change before adults understand it. "People at school are being nicer," Lily said one afternoon. "They listen when I talk." "Good," she said. "You deserve to be heard." Lily hesitated. "Is it because of me?" she asked. Elena knelt in front of her. "No," she said firmly. "It's because people are finally paying attention." Lily nodded, relieved. The public conversation grew heavier, not louder, heavier. Institutions released careful statements. Words like review, concern, responsibility appeared, words that hadn't existed before. And with them came discomfort, because responsibility demands action. Elena was asked to attend another meeting. This time, the room was fuller. More faces, more seriousness. She spoke again. She didn't dramatize, she didn't accuse. She told the truth exactly as it was. When she finished, no one rushed to speak. One of them finally said, "We failed." Those two words echoed louder than any apology. Outside, the story continued to grow. People shared experiences, not just parents, former students, quiet voices that had waited years. Elena read some of the stories late at night when Lily was asleep. Some made her angry, some made her cry. All of them confirmed one thing: silence had done the real damage. There were consequences, not dramatic ones, not public punishment, but removal, separation, access quietly shut down. The person once protected by comfort was no longer untouchable, and that mattered. Elena didn't celebrate. Justice isn't a victory parade. It's a quiet exhale after holding your breath too long. She focused on Lily, on school projects, on bedtime talks, on small moments that felt normal again. One evening, Lily asked something unexpected. "Mom, are you proud of me?" Elena felt tears rise. "I am proud of you every day," she said, "for being brave, for telling the truth, for surviving." Lily smiled. "I learned it from you," she said. And Elena understood the true cost of courage. Children inherit it. Some people reached out to Elena with apologies, long messages, emotional calls. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I should have spoken up. I was scared." Elena accepted some apologies. She ignored others. Forgiveness, she learned, does not mean reopening doors that once closed on you. Her parents came to see her. They looked older, smaller. "We were wrong," her mother said softly. Elena listened. "I needed you then," Elena replied. "I don't need you to explain it now." The truth settled between them. Not cruel, just real. The question people asked changed. No longer, why did she leave, but how did she stand alone for so long? Elena never answered that question out loud, because the answer was simple. She didn't stand alone. She stood with her daughter. The story reached a point where it could no longer be controlled, and that terrified some people, but it also freed others. Freedom always scares those who benefit from silence. Late one night, Elena sat by the window thinking about the life she lost, the family that broke, the future she never planned. And she realized something quietly powerful. She didn't miss the old world because it had never truly been safe. Lily slept peacefully in the next room, and that was the only proof Elena ever needed that she had made the right choice. The truth had spoken out loud, not with rage, not with destruction, but with clarity. And clarity changed everything.
Justice has a cost. No one tells you that at the beginning. They talk about closure, about relief, about peace. But justice doesn't arrive with comfort. It arrives with weight. And Elena felt that weight settle into her bones after the noise finally faded. The call slowed, the meeting stopped, the statements were made. The world moved on, as it always does. But Elena and Lily stayed. They stayed with the memories, with the consequences, with the quiet aftermath no one prepares you for. Healing isn't a straight line. Some mornings, Lily woke up smiling, ready for school, talking about plans. Other mornings, she sat silently at the table, staring into her bowl. Elena learned not to rush those days. You don't pull someone through healing. You walk beside them. Elena struggled too. At night, when the apartment was quiet, the questions came back. Could I have seen it sooner? Should I have spoken louder? Did I do enough? Guilt is clever. It finds cracks even after you do the right thing. But Elena reminded herself of something important. Blame belongs to those who crossed lines, not to those who survived them. The hardest part wasn't the loss of her marriage. It wasn't the distance from her family. It was the loss of certainty. She had believed that doing the right thing would make the path clear. Instead, it made it lonely. But loneliness, she learned, is better than living inside a lie. Lily started therapy, not because she was broken, but because healing needs language. Some days she came home quiet, other days lighter. Once she said something that stayed with Elena. Talking makes it smaller, and Elena understood. Truth shrinks fear, silence feeds it. People began to treat Elena differently now, with respect, with careful kindness, but also with distance. She was no longer invisible. She was a reminder of mistakes people made, of silence they chose, and not everyone wants to be reminded. One afternoon, Elena ran into someone from her old life at the grocery store. They smiled awkwardly. "I always thought you were strong," the woman said. Elena nodded politely. She didn't say what she was thinking. Strength isn't a personality trait. It's a response to survival. Lily grew taller, more confident. She joined a school club, made new friends, and sometimes Elena caught her laughing freely, the kind of laughter that doesn't check the room first. Those moments were worth everything. There were setbacks, a sudden noise, a bad dream, a question that reopened old wounds. Healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about teaching it where it belongs. Elena learned to let go of the need for validation. Some people would never admit they were wrong, some would never apologize, and that was okay. Justice didn't require everyone's agreement, only the truth's existence. One evening, Lily asked, "Mom, do you ever miss them?" Elena considered the question carefully. "I miss who I thought they were," she said honestly, "but I don't miss who you chose to be." Lily nodded, understanding more than her age should allow. Elena started volunteering quietly, helping other parents navigate systems that once overwhelmed her. She didn't share her story unless asked. She didn't need attention. She needed purpose. And purpose came naturally when pain was turned into guidance. The anger faded slowly, not into forgiveness, but into acceptance. Acceptance that some people fail you. Acceptance that walking away doesn't make you weak. Acceptance that protecting your child is never something to apologize for. Late one night, Elena stood by the window again, watching city lights. She thought about the moment she left. One bag, one child, no certainty. And she felt something close to gratitude, not for what happened, but for what followed. Lily came to stand beside her. "Mom," she said softly, "I'm not scared anymore." Elena closed her eyes. That sentence was justice. Everything else was paperwork. The cost of truth had been high, but the return was priceless. A child who felt safe, a mother who trusted herself, a life built on honesty, not endurance. And Elena understood the final lesson of her journey. Justice doesn't give you your old life back. It gives you a chance to build a better one. Time doesn't heal everything. That's a lie people tell when they don't know what else to say. Time doesn't heal wounds like these. Truth does. Safety does. Being believed does. And Elena learned that healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about no longer living inside it. Years passed quietly, not dramatically, not publicly, the kind of passing that happens when life finally becomes normal again. Elena moved to a better place,
Nothing fancy, but warm, bright, a place where Lily could breathe. They painted the walls together, argued over colors, laughed when the paint spilled on the floor. Laughter had returned, real laughter, the kind that doesn't apologize for existing. Lily grew into herself, not fearless, but confident. She learned how to speak clearly, how to say no without guilt, how to trust her instincts. She learned something Elena never had at her age, that her voice mattered. And every time Lily stood up for herself, Elena felt a quiet victory inside her chest. Elena never told Lily she was strong because of what happened. She told her the truth instead. You were strong even before. You just didn't know it yet. The world never fully apologized. It rarely does. Some people still avoided Elena. Some still pretended nothing had happened. And that was okay, because Elena had stopped measuring her life by other people's comfort. She measured it by one thing only. Was her daughter safe? And the answer, every day, was yes. Sometimes Elena thought back to the question people used to ask. Why would a mother destroy her own life like this? She finally had an answer. She hadn't destroyed her life. She had refused to sacrifice her child to protect it. Elena learned something no one teaches you. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it means you were the only one brave enough to tell the truth with your feet. She also learned this: silence is not peace, endurance is not love, and family is not defined by blood, but by protection. One evening, years later, Lily sat beside her on the couch. "Mom," she said, "do you think you'd do it all again?" Elena didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said, "every time." Lily smiled. That smile was worth every loss. Elena never became famous, never became celebrated. She didn't need to. Her reward wasn't applause. It was bedtime conversations, school achievements, a child who slept without fear. It was waking up each day knowing she had chosen right, even when it cost her everything. And if Elena could speak to anyone listening now, any parent standing at the edge of a terrible choice, she would say this: if protecting your child makes you the villain in someone else's story, let them tell that story. History has a way of remembering who stayed silent and who stood up. Because one day, when the noise fades, when the rumors die, when the world moves on, your child will remember one thing: that you chose them. And that choice changes everything. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is walk away without permission. Sometimes love doesn't look like staying. It looks like leaving, quietly, firmly, with the truth in your hands and your child in your arms. And that kind of courage doesn't need approval. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone who needed protection, or if you believe truth matters more than comfort, take a moment to support this channel. Like the video, subscribe for more real stories of strength, justice, and survival, and share your thoughts in the comments, because silence ends when stories are told.